Hi, Omoigbo here. Welcome back to my channel. A few housekeeping items first. Make sure to thumbs up this video and subscribe if you'd like to keep in touch. Click that little bell thing so you get a notification whenever I post a new video, which you definitely want in your life. So what do I even post videos about? Well, in general, stuff about being a former Christian and transitioning to a non-believer / agnostic person. Specifically, my experience being a Black / Nigerian / African non-believer, and other non-believer friendly topics. In my first 3 videos, I talk about how I became a non-believer and a little bit about what I believe right now, so make sure to check those out. Okay, thanks. This video is about the emotions that I felt during that first year or so after I deconverted, or logged off as I sometimes call it. It was a weird time in my life, man. And I think only those folks that have been through this themselves can really truly understand what I'm talking about. Have you ever heard of that movie called The Truman Show with Jim Carrey?
What if your world was make-believe? What if everyone you knew was pretending? What if you didn't know it? Until now.
So Jim Carrey's character is raised his whole life not realizing that he's the main character, the star of this show that's televised in the outside world. Everything about his life is scripted and fake, and then he kind of figures it out and then escapes. I felt a little bit like that my first year. Kind of. Once I realized that what I had been taught about religion and Christianity specifically wasn't true, I realized that I had to escape. Obviously not a literal escape like in the movie, but more of a mental, emotional escape. I had to reset, and there was no one around to help me do this. My friends would be talking about things like finals or what their plans were for the weekend, and I'd be having little existential crises in my head every 45 minutes. So it was a weird time, but I got through it. And I want to talk about some of the emotions that I was feeling as I was going through it. So when I first decided that I was going to start this channel, I went to the library to see if there are any books I could find to kind of beef up my knowledge base about the subject. I was an A student in high school, if you couldn't already tell. So I found this book called What If I'm an Atheist? A Teen's Guide to Exploring Life Without Religion by a man named David Seidman. Man, I wish I had read this book back then. It is pretty basic, it's an easy read, which is great for people who just want a quick read about atheism, or for young people who are trying to make sense of their experiences. In the book, there's a chapter about how becoming an atheist will change you or what you might feel. I had worked my way through those same feelings, so I decided it was something I wanted to talk about. The first thing I felt after deconverting was fear. Yes, my good friend fear. I didn't know what I was doing. I had thoughts like, is this okay? Am I wrong? How do I know if I'm wrong? What happens if I'm wrong? Is something bad gonna happen to me? Would I get struck by lightning or hit by a car? It took me a while to shake the feeling that I was gonna be punished for turning my back on God, even though logically I was very good with my decision. Have you heard of that movie called Left Behind with Kirk Cameron? I think that's his name, the guy from Growing Pains. After he found God. It's about what happens after the rapture, that is, once all the Christians get called back home to heaven, and then all the other people are left on earth to suffer. Those left behind have to decide between accepting the mark of the beast or death or something worse, I guess. That movie scared the crap out of me. I didn't want to find out I was wrong about everything and wake up one morning left. Luckily, the fear of punishment didn't last super long. And at the same time I was doing that whole scared thing, I actually did feel some anger. The book specifically talks about anger over lost time or time given to the religion. I wasn't really mad about being a Christian for so long. My anger was directed towards all these religious institutions. The deception, the mind control, the bigotry. I was angry that so many people bought into this system that had and continue to do horrible things to people. Especially in Africa, specifically Nigeria, because the way these pastors control people's entire lives pisses me off to no end. Don't even get me started on the Catholic Church. It took time to come to a more balanced view of religion and to see some of the more positive sides that it provides in people's lives. I understand that it's not all bad, and neither are its followers. I did experience some loneliness and some grief because I did lose a community. I had been part of an on-campus ministry group the first year and a half that I was in college. Even though I wasn't the best of friends with these people because some of them were lunatics, at least I had somewhere to go. We took trips, explored the city, had regular meetings, went out to eat, all that kind of general stuff. And I do think some of those people in that group really did care about me as a person. When I stepped away from that community, I did feel a little bit lonely. I was also kind of bummed that I'd stopped believing in heaven, Because if there's no hell, then there's no heaven. And I had been looking forward to heaven. So losing the idea of heaven did cause me to feel some grief. Man, I knew my mom would be devastated when she found out that I didn't believe in God anymore. My mom and I, like many mothers and daughters, have a complicated relationship. I think there's less we agree on than what we disagree on. Even at that, I would never want to intentionally hurt her. She believes with every fiber in her being that unless I accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, I am going to go to hellfire for eternity. For a while, I didn't think I was ever going to tell her how I really felt because I didn't want her to live with that burden for the rest of her life. So I also felt a lot of guilt during this time because I knew once it got out, I would wreck my mom. So juggling all those emotions combined with what I now know was anxiety was a lot. I was insecure, I was far away from home, I didn't have a ton of close friends, I was perpetually broke, and I was in general pretty pessimistic about life at that time. I hadn't declared a major yet, and I was nearing the end of my second year of college. I had just found out I would not be able to attend the film school like I had planned to do, and so I didn't really know where to go from there. So I was feeling upset because I didn't really know what I was doing in college, and then combine that with the fear, the grief, the sadness, the anger from my religious transition, I was just not in a good headspace. But like a lot of things, it definitely got better. How did it get better? Well, for one, I realized that I needed an outlet. It didn't help to keep going round and round and round and round and round in my head with some of these thoughts. I needed to create just for the sake of creation because it made me feel better. So I did things like making videos with my friends. I wrote a lot. I played the guitar very, very poorly. I started working out more regularly. I was running, and I also played rugby. And the rugby team was really nice because it actually did create a new community for me, which was nice. I had to be really patient with myself, so I would cry when I needed to cry. I was alone when I needed to be alone. I let myself feel all the emotions and reminded myself that it was temporary because all emotions are. And then came the good parts. I felt peace. I accepted that life had just gotten a little bit less clear, and I was okay with that. I didn't have a choice but to be okay with it. I think trusting myself had something to do with achieving that peace. Even now, I trust that whatever's going to happen, I am able to handle it, even if I'm making it up as I go. A good amount of cannabis also helped. And then after peace came the liberation. I could do whatever I wanted with my life. I wasn't waiting anymore for a sign from God about what I should be doing with my life. Let me tell you, it is really hard to fuck something up if there's no plan to begin with. That's why I got a tattoo that says I am free. I feel free. I feel like I had a new vigor for life. Like I said in my other video, I got to choose my own values. And I really, really, really enjoy the process of figuring out what those are. And I'm not bound by culture either. Most of what we humans do by the way of culture is made up, which brings me great comfort when I don't fit in as well. So if you're a non-believer, especially those folks out there that did deconvert, what did you feel when you went through that transition? When did liberation come for you? I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.